You're asleep right now. Well, not right now, obviously, you're watching this. But last night you were. You closed your eyes, went completely unconscious, and stayed that way for 6 to 9 hours. You couldn't see, couldn't hear properly, couldn't move fast, couldn't fight, couldn't run. You were, by every reasonable definition, the most vulnerable you ever get as a living creature. And somewhere out there, last night, a lion was awake. A leopard was awake. A bear was awake. An animal with night vision you couldn't imagine, a sense of smell powerful enough to track you from a mile away, and teeth designed specifically to kill things larger than you, was active, alert, and hungry, while you were drooling on your pillow with zero awareness of the outside world. And yet here you are, watching a video. Alive. Why? Think about it practically. You're a soft, slow, essentially defenseless mammal who spends roughly a third of every day completely unconscious. No claws, no shell, no echolocation, barely any night vision. And for most of human history, you weren't sleeping behind locked doors. You were sleeping outside, in the open, in the same landscape as every predator that ever evolved to hunt warm-blooded prey. By every law of nature, you should have been eaten. Regularly. As a matter of basic ecology. And yet it almost never happens. Not just now, with our walls and security systems. Even tens of thousands of years ago, with no walls and no fire alarms, humans slept, and they woke up. Most of the time. Night after night after night, across an entire species. There's something going on here. Something old, something biological, something involving evolution, fear, and fire, an invisible agreement between humans and the wild that nobody ever consciously negotiated. Let's get into it. First, something movies get completely wrong: predators are not reckless. This is the biggest misconception people carry about large carnivores. The fearless, unstoppable killing machine that launches itself at anything within range is Hollywood fiction. Real predators are extraordinarily cautious. The reason is simple: they have no safety net. A lion doesn't have health insurance. A wolf doesn't get sick days. In the wild, a serious injury isn't an inconvenience, it's a potential death sentence. A broken leg or deep wound doesn't heal cleanly without medical care. It gets infected, it slows the animal down, it ends its ability to hunt. And a predator that can't hunt doesn't eat. And a predator that doesn't eat dies slowly and badly. So every time a predator considers engaging with something, it's running a survival calculation, not consciously, but in the deep instinctive way evolution encodes after millions of years of trial and error. Is this worth the risk of injury? Is this something I recognize, something predictable? Or is it strange, something that might fight back in ways I can't anticipate? This is where the sleeping human starts to work in their own favor. Not because you're dangerous, not at this stage. Because you're strange. You don't smell like prey. You don't move like prey. You don't fit any pattern a wolf or lion or leopard has spent its evolutionary history calibrating toward. A wolf's predatory instinct is tuned to ungulates, the specific movement of deer and elk, the way they bolt, their blind spots, the moment in a chase they're most likely to stumble. A lion's strike response activates on the shape, speed, and scent of animals it has hunted thousands of times. You're not any of those animals. You're a primate, shaped wrong, moving wrong, smelling wrong. And an anomaly, in predator psychology, doesn't trigger the hunt response. It triggers caution. And caution, in an animal that can't afford injury, usually means one thing: walking away. Let's talk about your smell, because this part is underrated and almost nobody mentions it. You've never thought hard about how you smell because you're constantly surrounded by other humans. But think of walking past a bakery and getting hit by the smell of fresh bread. That's roughly the intensity a bear or wolf experiences catching your scent on the wind. Except what they're reading is a full chemical autobiography of your last day. Bears have a sense of smell estimated at 7 to 10 times stronger than a bloodhound's, and a bloodhound can already follow a 4-day-old trail across 20 miles. Wolves can detect scents at concentrations from up to 2 miles away under the right wind. Big cats have a Jacobson's organ in the roof of their mouth that lets them chemically taste the air, pulling molecular detail from everything that's passed through recently. When these animals catch your scent, they receive a flood of information humans can't conceptualize, and much of it reads as deeply, profoundly weird. Not dangerous yet. Just wrong. Chemically incoherent. You smell like synthetic fabrics, the flame-retardant chemicals in your sleeping bag, none of which exist anywhere in nature. You smell like detergent, an artificial floral or citrus scent with no natural equivalent. You smell like soap and shampoo, another stacked layer of artificial chemistry. Add sunscreen, add insect repellent, and you're carrying a scent profile with zero precedent in the natural world. Underneath all of it, you do smell like a primate. But that's not deer, not elk, not wildebeest, not any species a predator's instinct has been calibrated across generations to pursue. You are chemically unrecognizable as prey. Predatory instinct isn't a vague aggression that fires at anything warm-blooded. It's a finely calibrated, species-specific system tuned to recognize particular animals, almost like a lock that only certain keys fit. When something doesn't match the template, the hunt response doesn't activate. Instead, the animal watches from a distance, sniffs the air, circles, and if nothing in its inherited memory says prey, it moves on. You're not in the system. And not being in the system is almost as good as being terrifying. Better, actually, because it doesn't even require a confrontation. But here's where it gets genuinely extraordinary, because you're not just a harmless anomaly predators can't categorize. You're something many of them are instinctively, evolutionarily afraid of. In 2019, researchers at UC Santa Cruz set up speakers near mountain lion hunting sites in the Santa Cruz Mountains and played recordings. Frogs, birds, and ordinary humans talking, casual conversational voices, nothing aggressive. The mountain lions fled at the sound of human voices at a rate matching, and often exceeding, their response to barking dogs. These are animals capable of dragging a full-grown deer up a hillside, killing prey 3 times their own body weight. They heard someone chatting about nothing in particular, and they ran. It wasn't a one-off. The same research documented lions abandoning kills entirely, mid-meal, at the sound of human voices. All the calories spent stalking and killing, gone, walked away from. That's an enormous cost for a wild animal to absorb. You don't sacrifice a kill unless something deeper than hunger is driving the decision. So why are large predators so averse to us that they'll give up food to avoid us? The answer is one of the most brutal facts in natural history, and it explains everything else in this video. We have been hunting and killing large predators for so long, so effectively, that we've shaped their evolution from the outside. Humans have been organized, cooperative hunters for roughly 2 million years. We hunted mammoths to extinction. We drove woolly rhinos, giant ground sloths, cave bears, and saber-toothed cats off the planet entirely. In North America, our arrival coincided with the disappearance of more than 30 genera of large animals within a few thousand years. We hunted wolves across Europe and North America nearly to extinction. We eliminated mountain lions from the entire eastern United States. We shot, trapped, and poisoned predators for so many generations that the ones alive today descend from the individuals who were most careful around us. The ones who fled fastest, gave the widest berth, felt something deep and inherited that said do not engage. That instinct got passed down. The bold predators were removed from the gene pool. The cautious ones survived and reproduced. Over thousands of generations, caution became biology, became instinct, became the baseline behavior of every large carnivore alive near humans today. So when a leopard catches your scent outside a tent, an alarm fires somewhere in its nervous system, not a conscious thought, an old wired-in signal: be careful, don't engage, move on. That signal is a biological memory of what our species has done to its kind, and it runs deep enough to activate automatically, before any reasoning happens. The predator turns away the way you'd flinch from a hot stove before you've registered the heat. You've been terrifying large predators for so long it became their factory setting. There's one more piece, maybe the oldest of all: fire. Humans controlled fire somewhere between 1 and 2 million years ago, and ever since, sleeping next to one has been standard practice, not just for warmth, but for a reason our ancestors understood instinctively even without understanding why. Fire produces a near-universal fear response across virtually all land animals. Not a learned response, an innate one, selected for over millions of years. Animals instinctively afraid of fire survived wildfires by running early. The ones that weren't afraid didn't survive to pass that trait on. The result is that fear of fire is so deeply wired that lab animals who've never encountered an actual flame still show avoidance at the smell of smoke alone. No prior experience required. A campfire broadcasts a signal into the darkness in every direction. Something that controls fire is here. And as far as any predator's evolutionary memory is concerned, only one species has ever controlled fire. Every predator alive, inheriting that knowledge from ancestors that survived wildfires by reading the warning signs, understands what controlled fire means. It means us. A campfire isn't just heat. It's a territorial marker, a species identifier, broadcasting a warning that reaches hundreds of meters and speaks a language every large predator understands without ever being taught a word of it. Humans figured this out before farming, before pottery, before writing, before cities. Fire came first by a wide margin. And the instinct that fire keeps things away is part of why a campfire has never stopped feeling right. Not just warm. Safe, for reasons that go back millions of years. Now I have to be honest with you, because the full picture matters. None of this means you're untouchable. Predator attacks on humans do happen, rarely, but they happen, and when they do, they almost always follow a recognizable pattern. Something changed, and the normal calculation broke down. That something is usually one of three things. First, injury. The man-eating lions of Tsavo in 1898, responsible for dozens of railway worker deaths, weren't typical lions. One had severe dental damage that made normal hunting nearly impossible. The Champawat tiger, blamed for an estimated 436 deaths in early 20th century India, was found by hunter Jim Corbett to have 2 shattered canine teeth, likely from a prior gunshot wound. Unable to hunt normal prey, it turned to the only prey it could manage. This pattern repeats across nearly every documented attack. The animal was compromised, injured or old or sick, and humans became the only viable option. Second, habituation. Predators with regular non-threatening contact with humans, especially those fed deliberately or through careless garbage disposal, lose their inherited wariness fast, sometimes within a single generation. Learned fear is real, but it isn't permanent. When an animal starts associating humans with food instead of danger, the ancient alarm goes quiet, and the calculation changes. This is why feeding wildlife is genuinely dangerous, not just rude. Third, encroachment. When habitat is destroyed and natural prey disappears, a starving predator's calculation shifts. A healthy predator in a healthy ecosystem has options and the luxury of caution. A desperate one, backed into a corner, has far fewer, and desperation overrides even deeply inherited instinct. The rule holds almost universally when conditions are intact: healthy predator, healthy ecosystem, humans not behaving like a free food source. Disrupt those conditions, and you're negotiating without 2 million years of history behind you. Here's the part that should genuinely change how you think about yourself. You're not as passive in this arrangement as you might assume, even while unconscious. Your sleeping body is actively running systems you're not aware of, built over hundreds of thousands of years for exactly this situation. Humans cycle through light sleep, deep sleep, and REM repeatedly through the night. During lighter stages, which take up a significant portion of every night, your brain isn't fully offline. Researchers call this the sentinel function, the sleeping brain's capacity to keep monitoring the environment despite the absence of conscious awareness. Unfamiliar sounds break through far more readily than familiar ones your brain has already learned to ignore. A branch creaking differently than usual. A shift in wind through the leaves. The specific quality of silence when something large stops moving nearby. These can pull you from unconsciousness to full alertness in seconds, not because you decided to listen, but because your brain, running programs written across hundreds of thousands of years of sleeping somewhere dangerous, was already listening. The humans who slept too deeply, who were truly unresponsive to nighttime threats, simply didn't survive to have descendants. The ones who passed their genes to you were the lighter sleepers, capable of going from unconscious to upright in a single second. You inherited that. And then there's the group factor. Humans almost never sleep alone in nature. We camp in groups, travel in groups, and always have. Predators understand group dynamics instinctively, because their usual prey also forms groups, and successful hunting requires reading those groups correctly. Predators hunt for separation, the isolated animal, the one cut off from the herd. A camp full of sleeping humans is the opposite of an isolated target. It's a group with a long evolutionary history of responding to threats collectively, loudly, and violently. An attack on one person risks waking everyone else, and a camp full of armed humans is one of the least appealing scenarios imaginable for an animal that can't afford to be injured. The math has never added up. And predators are very good at this kind of math. So here's where we land. You sleep every night in total vulnerability. You always have, and so did every human before you, exposed, defenseless, for hours at a stretch, night after night, without exception. And the world has, largely, left you alone. Not because predators are kind, they aren't. Not because nature is gentle, it never has been. But because of something built over millions of years of brutal, relentless selection, written into the genetics of every large predator alive today, written into the accumulated experience of every human who ever hunted those predators, every fire that ever burned through a long night, every generation of increasingly cautious animals that survived precisely because they learned, and then inherited, the wisdom to give us a wide berth. You are something to be avoided, not because you're big or fast or strong, because you're none of those things compared to the animals we've discussed, but because of what you are as a species. What your kind has done across 2 million years. What you represent in the deep, inherited memory of every creature sharing this planet with you. When a leopard catches your scent in the dark and turns away, it isn't making a conscious decision. It's following an instinct written by 1 million encounters across 10,000 generations, doing exactly what every ancestor that survived a close encounter with a human learned to do, and then pass forward as instinct rather than lesson. It's walking away from something its own biology is telling it, with absolute certainty, isn't worth the risk. The most dangerous animal on the planet is the one that controls fire. The one that cooperates in groups. The one that sleeps light, travels in numbers, and has spent 2 million years removing, from every gene pool around it, any predator that forgot to be afraid of it. That's you? So next time you're lying in a tent, somewhere dark and quiet, and you feel that small, cold pulse of anxiety when something moves out there in the trees, that's fine. That feeling kept your ancestors alive for 200,000 years. It's doing exactly what it evolved to do. But the thing outside the tent, whatever it is, moving through the dark beyond your firelight? It's not coming in. It knows what you are. And it has known for a very long time, longer than memory, longer than language, written somewhere far deeper than thought.